We could say that.
Oh.
It's muffed.
Yeah, it's real muddled. It's very hard to hear anybody.
That's probably because 8 people were talking all at the same time.
Does Barb sound better? We'll just make her talk.
Don't think so.
I turned everything up, if that helps.
Does that work better?
That's better.
Okay.
We'll
Thank you.
lead it.
Yeah, Barb, you're up.
Yes, we're out. Okay.
All right, so we'll do our call to order at 16:04. Our pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Nick?
Here.
Andres?
Here.
Joe?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Zach?
Here. We'll look to adopt the agenda. Anybody have any?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
Oh, good, I'm very
Everyone's
sorry. Yeah, fine.
Nick?
Yes.
Andres?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes. And that'll move us to item number 4, public comments.
Nobody registered?
Sweet. Then we'll do item number 5, review the meeting minutes from July 24th, August 1st, and August 26th.
And I apologize, those didn't get to you sooner than yesterday.
I don't have any changes.
I can make a motion to set them for July 24th and August 1st, I was not here the 26th. So somebody will have to make that one.
I'll second that.
And then do you want to make?
Then I'll make the motion to accept the 26th, was it?
Yeah, that was our work
That was
session.
your work session.
Okay.
And I'll second the work session.
Oh my gosh, hold on.
Come on.
Sorry, I mean, I think we could, I mean.
Barbara, you're the only one Joe can hear.
Okay, so I have a motion from Nick to approve July 21st and August 1st. I have a motion from,
July 24th,
what did I say?
21st.
July 24th and August 1st. And I have a motion from Tom to accept August 26th, and Zach has seconded both, correct?
I'll second both, sure. Yeah, Tom had seconded the first one, but I can happily second both,
Okay.
as long as I'm not motioning.
All right, so Nick,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Andres,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
but you're abstaining from, Nick, you're abstaining from August 26th, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
And that will move us on to item number 6, financial statements from July 2024.
As you all noticed, our new accountant has given us our first financial statement for this year. Well, through them. So total cash on hand for July of '24 is $2,175,203. And that is split between the ambulance district and the transportation enterprise. That's up $161,434 from June, so we're looking good there. Our total year-to-date net income is $1,234,296.89. So we're still looking good so far this year. I've got some big concerns though. So there are multiple property tax initiatives and bills, two of which are on this year's ballot. State legislature is currently in session as we speak, trying to pass a different property tax bill. I think it would nullify the two that are on the ballot for this year. No matter how we swing it, all of these will reduce our funding. Right now, our assessed property valuation for next year, we're already projected to lose $369,000. With these bills, we're gonna lose even more. We don't know what that looks like yet. We don't know how much. We've got lobbyists and the EMS Association up there trying to fight for either backfill or amendment to the bill to see if it'll help fire protection districts and ambulance districts so that we don't lose funding. But we won't know until they pass this bill what that's gonna look like. So with that being said, I'm thinking next year we need to either look at a sales tax or a mill levy increase. And my guess and my suggestion would be to try to do that at the May special district election so that we're not lost in the November general election and mixed in with everything that happens in November. So we can discuss that a little bit further later on or at the next meeting or at the budget hearing or something, but I just want to let you guys know that those are my concerns. We're for sure losing the $369,000 and potentially more.
Wow.
So.
Are any of the things the lobbyists are working on, is there anything in the play or in the works that would keep us from losing hours even if property tax goes down? Or is it just because there's a reduction in property tax?
It's because there's a reduction and it's such a significant reduction that we're gonna lose. Yeah, there's nothing in the works right now.
Okay.
HCSAR. This is a stand-down page for the lost hiker on Cordova Pass who has been safely located.
Sorry.
Thanks to all that participated in the successful search.
Wow.
For your
Wow,
information,
that's
go to
So-
your Altapo app and look at where
Yes,
those are
Do you-
navigate much required and see actual tracks of search for
I've seen a lot of,
Any problems with this
tax
one,
initiatives
say
through the
anything.
years.
And a big thanks to
you know,
all.
sales tax or what's the other one?
Mill levy?
Mill levy and, anyway, generally, they don't do well.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
People, when you say tax, and especially like, as Les knows, they're trying to get a lodger's tax going from 3% to 6%. And I could go back and play you the tapes where, they fight over, we've had these community meetings, and this goes back a ways, and I have a few of them, where the community debates, the validity of doing this. And it's not, doesn't look good as far as getting this passed. So,
I don't disagree, but we're gonna have to do something. I mean, we're over $250,000 lost right now, with potentially more. To me, a sales tax would be easier to sell, because it's not just the community that's paying for that, it's visitors. But we're gonna have to do something, otherwise we're gonna have to reduce services.
I guess what I would offer is, I will put these on in a flash drive or whatever, because I've watched these arguments play out, and it's the same arguments all the time. And just so you can be prepared to get
I think that's great, because I think we do need to try and make some kind of argument for it, and hopefully because it's emergency medicine, that
Right.
maybe we'll have a leg up, but I think that might be a good idea, so that way we could go through and try it, and I'll happily watch them too and email you and stuff, but if we can go through and kind of game plan on what typical arguments have been
Right.
against in the past, and try and prepare ourselves for that, because I think, if we have no other choice, then we have to try and make something happen.
it's the same argument at different points in time of there really is nothing new.
Right.
It's just people are very staunch, for whatever it is that they're in favor of. And if you say mill levy or property tax, there's the people oh hell no, sales tax, and then there's the people oh hell no. But I have them and I'll pull them up and if that's the route you want to go, I just want you to be prepared.
I think
Because
that-
you already know the questions that they're gonna raise.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. to
Objections.
Like game.
So our biggest issue is because we're not an essential service in the state of Colorado, there is no funding mechanism for EMS whatsoever.
Right.
So if we lose funding, we just go away, nobody has to provide the service, and the community is just left to figure it out. And so I think people need to realize that we're not an essential service, and, I mean, you have to pay for the goods.
I agree.
That's so hard to sell though, especially if you have a ballot initiative that says, shall we raise taxes for something that is a non-essential service? I mean, I know you guys get it, and I am preaching to the choir, but it's so difficult. And in this inflationary time period, sales tax would be murder. Tom's right, it's a very visceral reaction on property taxes. Again, I know you guys know this. It's just really hard to get tax increases right now. But, we gotta do it.
Yeah, I think,
And we're still at the state level trying to figure out how to sustain EMS long-term at the state level and looking for other answers. So, I mean, we're not stopping and just trying to do local sales tax or mill levy increase.
I do think it's a good place to start, even if it doesn't end up happening. It's one of the things that I think will at least, at the very least, even if everybody ends up saying no, worst case scenario, then it's like, we still have begun to get that message out to the community of like, hey, no, we do need to figure out funding. Fire departments get it from insurance companies. It's like, we've got to be able to work in something that allows EMS to continue existing.
And that's another good point. If we go for it and it fails for whatever reason, and then we have to cut services, then we say, well, we told you, we tried.
Right.
This is what came from it.
So, Gabe, across the state, are we unique in the mill levy and the services that we provide compared to like Pueblo and Springs and other municipalities?
Yes and no. So there are quite a bit of ambulance districts and health service districts throughout the state that we are not unique in that sense. But as far as Pueblo goes, they are a private entity for EMS, and they're for profit, so they wouldn't be affected by something like this. So they only get paid if they transport patients.
Right.
And the way they make their money is they contract with hospitals, nursing homes, that kind of thing. So they've got contracted rates, so this wouldn't hurt them. But as far as fire protection districts and ambulance districts and health service districts go, yeah, this is huge across the state. This is gonna hurt a lot of people.
Isn't that generally how big cities operate? That is, they don't have a special district for an ambulance district. They tend to be like private companies, contracted.
That's what I'm coming from, is the world of that, and it's awful. You get vulture
Right.
companies that come in, and so the issue that is what I tend to preach a lot is what I've seen them do in Georgia is, yes, typically the private services will run in major cities and even smaller cities and counties as a whole. But what will happen is they'll come in, they'll offer, we'll do it for whatever our budget was. And they'll come in and do it for 2 to 5 years at the budget that we were operating at. And then in 2 to 5 years, they'll be like, hey, we need a fuel per diem. Hey, we need a staff per diem. Hey, we're having trouble getting trucks up. We need this extra in our budget. And it ends up almost doubling the budget. And then when the county comes back and says, no, we're not, we're doubling what we were paying for our own thing, they'll take their trucks and leave. And you've got 24 hours and you don't have an EMS service. And so, yes, usually it's a private service that runs a lot of these things, and we, in that regard, tend to be a rarity across the country. And it's not because it's better, not because private services are better, it's just that's the way things are kind of going, following suit with hospitals, following suit with major conglomerates that are also opening things like that.
But the state legislature is so metro-centric, and since all the big cities tend to be private or however they do it, have their own services or whatever, and not have ambulance districts, they don't care about rural Colorado, so it's a harder sell. I know I'm just, spewing forth negative information that you all know anyway, but it's a harder sell because it's just rural Colorado.
And that's been our argument is the metro area, they'll find out how to figure it out. We can't. I mean,
Right.
there's nothing else to pull from here.
Yeah.
So what you'd be looking at is next May, possibly.
Yes.
So we've got.
So with the turnout, with voters being so low, would it be wise to do it?
I would think that we would have a better shot that way.
I agree.
But
I
I
agree, yeah.
Because the ones that are gonna show up to vote are the ones who are gonna care about the
Right.
voting.
It passing or it not passing,
Right.
right? Yeah, you're
It
right.
would need to be a huge educational thing to
That's right.
advise the
That's
public
I think so too.
on the consequences of not doing it.
I agree.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I agree with Chief, the idea of a mill levy versus a sales tax, any kind of tax. I mean, look, we're all suffering, but at the end of the day, I think that the sales tax would be easier to kind of spread across
Maybe.
everybody.
Yeah.
So question for Les, if it failed in May, would we still be able to try something else in November?
Possibly. There's no bar that says you can't do it again, right? You're not legally barred
So
from
then-
doing it. Although the voters may be a little resentful, right? If you lose and you try it again right away, but to answer your question, yes, you could do it
So-
right away.
So May is right around the corner,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
it's we better start planning now.
Right.
Totally.
Lot of work to do. And I want to remind everybody too that like once the ballot issue is certified, to the county to be on the vote, we have to be very careful to not lobby or not do anything because we can get in trouble. You can kind of be in favor of it. It's an ambulance district. We have to be very
You
careful.
have to lobby hard before
Exactly.
it gets on the ballot.
Exactly.
Once it's on the ballot,
That's
we
right.
have to lay back and
Exactly.
maybe we can get other groups of the public to go out and
Exactly.
speak on it.
And be funded and contribute to those things. That's right, especially as a board or as representatives of the ambulance district. You have to be very careful once the issue is certified to not lobby because we can get in trouble for doing that. Just so you know.
I would think at this point you might want to start talking to our commissioners and our city council members to let them know the how big of an issue this is.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and if we need to, I suppose I could actually get all dressed up and look nice if you want one of us to come in and also talk to.
I think it
then-
would be wise,
Yeah.
because then it's not just coming
Right,
Right.
from the guy who's
Yeah,
running
for
the
sure.
district.
I
You
get
know
you.
what I mean?
yeah, if you wanna get together and we can set up a time, or I can do
I
it.
think it'd be a good idea. And the other reason I was kind of pushing May versus November is I think the city's gonna go for a mill levy increase next year. So
Yeah,
we can try and beat it at the punch.
Totally, absolutely.
what is I mean, it's still with ambulance, it's still a pretty low percentage
What's that?
on our mill levy.
Yeah, it's 2.907.
Way low. And our mill levy for this county is incredibly low.
Yeah.
Yeah, very low. But it's the way people want to keep it, it seems like. Anyway.
So, one last question. So, if these initiatives pass and we do lose $369,000 in our budget, what would we be looking at having to cut back, or do we have enough in the bank right now to last for a while?
We have enough in the bank that we'd be okay for probably another year or so. But we're gonna get monitors this year. That's gonna be half of $144,000. That'll come out of, well, we're doing okay this year. So we might not have to take any of that out. So we'll be okay for roughly a year or so. But now with this USDA loan, we didn't have the loan before.
Right.
So now we're paying down that loan unless we can get money coming in. So that'll be a plus. So we'll be okay through 25, maybe part of 26, but we really need to start looking at something.
Well, May is eight months away. So that's quick.
Yeah.
That happens fast. I'll get those two, Zach. I've got to find them. I know I have one, but I can remember about three of them, and I just remember it was the same arguments over and over and over again.
I'll see if I
And-
can start piecing together kind of what I've seen happen with private services too. Maybe we can start to really piece together like a physical argument against going private, and that, I mean, that's if we're lucky we go private. It's like if we go away, then the town lucks out if a vulture private service happens to decide they're willing to come down here. It's terrifying. And so it's like, yeah, trying to build up an argument, not only having like game tapes on what previous arguments, like community arguments have been against it, and then also trying to come up with some good examples of why the municipal service should and needs to stay.
Right.
And
Well,
so-
I don't think it's a bad idea to also bring in your state level representatives in
Good point.
to show with you to the commissioners and to the public meetings and whatever you're gonna hold, so that it's not just a local issue, the state knows. You know,
Right.
Yeah, so any cooperation you need from me, just let me know and I'm here for it. This is definitely something 8 months is a short time, so.
Just one last thing, the nursing home was a state-run facility. It was one of the few, it was the only one that was built in the 1950s. And the state finally said, you know, why are we dealing with this? And the community fought to try and keep it. But up north, they didn't care. It's like, we want to be done with it, you know, and it went private. And I kind of think that's comparable to what we have here. It's like, if we're unique, that's why I asked earlier, you know, how the other ambulance services up north are run. I could see where up north, the legislators are like, too bad, so sad.
Yeah, Denver's all private.
Yeah, as far as that
You
goes,
see
we're
all-
unique. Well, Denver Health, the hospital runs the majority of the 911 up there,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
but the rest of them are private.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, we are unique, and our community is very fortunate to have state-of-the-art equipment, 2 advanced life support ambulances 24/7, and we also cover the biggest county. So
Right.
in that sense, we are unique, but
It's just the sales, we got to sell it.
so.
Yeah, we've got a good thing to sell. Like we are absolutely, like I said, in my opinion, coming from Georgia, seeing how it always goes, we've got something huge here in this. So it's not like we're trying to sell a lemon. We're actually trying to explain to people what this is that we've got and how negatively it can change if we don't have it. So I think we're at least on the good side of history in that way.
So that's my good and the bad of my financials.
Yeah, would be a buzz.
Yeah. It started out good. I
Yeah,
did it
yeah,
backwards.
yeah, compliment sandwich, man. We're supposed to, where's the good thing at the end? But yeah, like I said, anything you need from me, whether it's, setting up a meeting, going in and talking to people or whatever, research and game planning, whatever you need from me, just let me know.
Okay.
And I'll make sure that I'm with it. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns on the financial statements?
Make a motion to accept.
Do we want to get a second on the financial statements?
Second.
Nice.
Nick,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Andres.
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
So that'll move us on to item number 7, letter of intent, sale of property.
So I gave everybody a little handout with the bullet points on that letter of intent, and I also attached the original that came from the realtor showing what they initially requested and what the comeback was from the potential buyer. So you could see kind of the numbers and stuff.
Mark, can you send me a copy of that, please, when you get a chance, man? Thank you.
So Nick and Andreas, one of the things that we talked about at the work session was the realtors had tried to pitch a 25% down payment total, split up between Earnest and what have you. And the organization came back and requested a 10% down payment, which Joe brought up in the work session, that it just kind of feels like they don't quite have enough skin in the game. So the two things that we were talking about were one, in the bill of sale or in the sale paperwork, we were talking about obviously having some extreme conditions or strong conditions if they didn't pay to be able to retrieve the building and to make sure that there was approvals on any kind of work they got done. So that way, if we did have to take back possession of the building, then it wasn't a totally different thing. And then the other one was possibly going back with a 15% and seeing if maybe they would, like, just pure haggling style, because we wanted more. 20% is more of an industry standard. They asked for 25, the realtors, and then the company came back and said 10. So we were kind of thinking maybe throw a 15 and see if that's something they can swing, and it's a little extra money in the bank.
So my only concern was this balloon payment of $825,000. I mean, is that something they're gonna be able to do? I mean, here's the thing, and I'll be honest with you guys, in 5 years, I won't be on the board no more. It's gonna be somebody else's deal.
Right.
But it's not fair to send that down the road
Right.
if this is gonna blow up at the end.
So arguably, based on how things have looked in their Alamosa operation, yes, because they not only do private payer, they do insurance, but they also do Medicaid and Medicare, because they got set up through their Alamosa stuff, their Alamosa operation. And then on top of it, we would be receiving simply as this letter of intent goes, at least, we would be receiving just the interest each year, and then, or each month, right? And then every year, no, it was at the end of the balloon payment, they would pay us.
That's my concern, is at the end, I mean, yeah, they can, I mean, if they're getting started out, they can pay the $3,000, whatever it is on your interest per month, I get that.
Right.
But at the end of that 5-year
Are they
deal,
gonna have it?
is that gonna happen? Is that building is it gonna be functional? I
Right,
mean, you gotta remember, we live in Trinidad,
right.
and not everything goes here sometimes, and that's my only concern.
No, I agree with that concern. I think it is, I will say that signs point to yes, because they've got every ability to.
Yeah, but you gotta remember, Alamosa's got several little they have way more than
I
what
think
we
that
have in
was
Trinidad.
a point bar.
Alamosa has, I mean, you got, what's the next little city, from west of Alamosa, Monte Vista, Center, Sargent.
Yeah.
I mean, you have all those small places over there.
Yeah,
So do I understand correctly that we have an offer from the Alamosa group on buying the property?
yes.
Okay.
Correct.
The
They
contemplates,
offered
okay,
full price.
I wish I would have received this packet, because I
think you
have it.
got, I put it in, it should, that whatever was in front of you.
Oh, good, it is here, Barb, thank you.
Yeah.
I do have,
It
thank
should
you.
have the letter and
Okay,
then the little worksheet.
Um,
While you're looking at that, Bubba, what did you say the interest was? What did you did the math annually that we'd be making? In total, it was 200, I think total in 5 years, it was gonna be 200 and some odd thousand. You came up with 87 a year?
Yeah, it was like, I want to say it was like 230, or it was 2 something. But yeah, it was. What did you get for doing all the long format
It's,
math?
The 990,
I don't know what the financial situation is, but
5%.
So was this the only bid when we put out the RFP?
Yes. Currently.
And is the time period closed?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
But he said that they put it out to all of their, I can't remember all the technical terms, but he put it out to all their people and they put it out.
Yeah.
And there was no bites. And so they said that there's very good potential that this could sit on the market for quite a while.
Okay. Yeah, this causes me a good deal of heartburn and concern, but if it's the only one, if it's the only bid, then it's like, it's the only bid, and so, kind of.
And I think that's why, again, it was coming back to having some really strict conditions in the sale paperwork, which is something that, if I remember correctly, the broker has templates and has basics that he will add details and add any conditions and any of the specifics to our situation. And then I believe he was gonna give it to Lisa Mayer, who then would also let us review and make sure everything was approved. But so that I believe is why we ended up with with having some very strict conditions as to whether or not they repay, and while they're repaying, to be able to get approval on any major changes to the building and things like that.
The interest over 60 months at $3,781.25 is $226,860.
Beer.
For the 5.
For the five.
So just so you guys know, Lisa Mayer, we had contacted her early on in this process, and she's got a group of real estate attorneys that specialize in this stuff. So they would review all of this on top of the brokers.
Okay.
And then Barb talked to Bank of the San Juans today, and the Wall Street primary interest is 8.5%. And gave 2 suggestions. The one, if we did the sale, if they were to default, then we would have to go through the foreclosure process. Or he, or I don't know if you suggested it
Well,
to
I
him,
mentioned it to him to see what he thought, and he thought that would be
There was
maybe better idea.
possibly a lease option.
Okay.
So like a rent to own kind of thing, and then we wouldn't have to go through the foreclosure process if they defaulted.
And you could still have all your strict restrictions and everything stay the same, but
That
it's a
might be a
lease
better-
option instead of an outright sale.
Yeah.
We would still own it and retain control over
And
it.
then we would do a sale
And
at
then
the end of their
At
payments.
the 5, just like this, they can pay the 3781 interest,
Right.
do it at 5%, and then they do the balloon payment,
Mhm.
but we retain ownership
Right.
until the balloon payment
Gives us that
is in
extra
place.
defense if they don't pay.
But then they could have the benefit of 5 years of leasing and walk away without consequence.
Same thing here too, right? Les?
Yeah, but
If they
we
walk
But
away
we
after
don't have to
5
pay
years.
for the foreclosure process either.
No, I know, but I mean,
And we would still receive the money and the building back.
but I am guessing that they would want to lease this for a lot less money. What this is contemplating is like doing them a favor. You know, when you do a little like rent to own with a balloon payment at the end, it's usually like for a family member or somebody you're wanting to do a favor for because they can't afford to do it right now. So if they lease, I'm sure they're not going to be, you know, saying, okay, we'll pay you $5,000 a month or something you might normally pay for a commercial, you know, property that size. They're going to want a break, they're going to want a deal, and so they're going to, you know, get a good deal on rent monthly, use it, and then just walk away. I'd almost rather have them on the hook and say, if you want it, you got to do it and sign up for it, and you owe us the money at the end. And if you don't, then we foreclose and take it back, we keep your money, and you get nothing. But I just think this is giving them a big favor.
How is it less liability on our part to enter into an actual sale with them if then setting up a lease agreement that has, like a lease to own that has the same type of condition?
If it has all the same,
Yeah, we're talking about
Yes.
having the
Right.
same
Yep.
interest
but we
payments.
retain
balloon
ownership
payments.
until they make the balloon payment.
Right.
If they do this arrangement, then they're in breach and they essentially have like a foreclosure proceeding at the conclusion of it. So they have more skin in the game to come up with the money at the conclusion of 5 years. If it's just a lease, you know, lease arrangement with a balloon payment at the end, then they can just walk away without consequence. I mean, you know, whatever you guys want to do, but it's just, they don't have as much skin in the game if they do it that way. And I think no matter what, they're asking the ambulance district to give them a break. That's why it's beneficial to them to have a balloon payment at the end on this. It's just like, trust us, we'll make a low payment at a lower than, you know, market interest rate and owe you at the end.
Well,
Either way, they're
And
Go
I think one of the things that the realtors brought up though, with it being, as it was brought up earlier, being in Trinidad, Colorado, and having a unique property, the other side of this coin is we set on it for how long, we still have to maintain it.
Yeah.
We still have to heat
You're
it.
right.
We still have to do all that stuff too.
You're
So,
right.
so with it being what was the term they used? A specialty type property.
Right.
special use.
Yeah.
special use, that type of thing. So just so the board's aware of that, is the other side of that coin is potentially sitting on it for gosh only knows how long.
You're right.
Yeah, because with
So-
this is in the very worst scenario, we're just not paid, we're getting paid for it to sit and them to back out on the
That's
deal.
And I would just say, I would just emphasize, I guess my point is on the lease arrangement is just making sure that you get like a reasonable amount of money monthly, right? Not just give it to them for like $750 a month, right? Or some kind of really good deal, that you get some kind of,
See, I
income.
would say they paid them $37.81.25 a month, just like they would if they were buying it.
Yeah,
And that to
That
me
Like
makes
I
is,
said, take what's in their
Right.
intent
Yeah.
and just change it from a purchase
to a lease.
Yeah.
to a lease option, and everything they pay
Yeah.
is just like they're gonna buy it.
And then I assume
Yeah.
prospectively, it would be once they are paying the final balloon payment, then we would do this end of the process again and do the sale
Just
process.
sell it.
yeah, yeah.
It's done.
So,
What's your take on all of that, Joe?
Oh, me?
Wake up, Joe.
Well, I think we're making it more complicated, and we're trying to have a crystal ball, and, we have to deal with it the way the market is today. And the trend for Trinidad, honestly, I don't think is on the upswing, at least in the near future. So my suggestion would to bump the 15% and do the deal and do the most restrictive foreclosure agreement we can get. So it's tied up pretty tight. Because if we lease it, they can walk out of the lease too. So here we are again. At least they have more skin in the game. We have a little money to work with, and initially they're going to, I think, be successful. I'm sure they have enough capital to get things going. The only other confidence I have in them is they're successful in Alamosa. I know it's a bigger jurisdiction and everything, but they do have a little of a proven track record. So their formula seems to work. So hopefully it can work here.
I think I do kind of like the simplicity of that, of just keeping it bill of sale, or keeping it in the sale document, having the strict foreclosure agreement in the document, and then I guess having the threat of foreclosure does add some skin in the game if they don't have the money to add the skin in the game.
The little bit that I know about these people, I think this is just one of many of their businesses. I mean, they still do roofing and they're very successful.
Yeah.
I think this is just one of their, but they're passionate about because they're recovering,
Right.
addicts. And so I think this is a passion for them.
Right.
But they still have all these other things going on.
Yeah.
So I'm not concerned like they're coming in, and this is their only,
Right. Yeah, make it or break it.
right.
I personally like the idea of, after having this conversation, I personally like the idea of continuing the way we were and then trying to up it to 15% as a down payment and see if they're able to swing that.
Good.
But
Do you guys want to keep the earnest money at $12,500? And the only thing you want to try and increase then is the down payment?
what do you think, Joe? This is kind of out of my wheelhouse.
Say it again, what was the question?
She was saying, do we want to keep the earnest money at what it's at the 12.5 and then increase the actual down payment, or how would we? What should our proposed change be?
Yeah, I just think, they've made an offer and it's us to respond with an offer. So I think we're at that stage, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I would just counter the offer and then, not keep it complicated and see what they come back with. My bargaining in a different situation would say, I'd say 20, expecting 15 because they counter. And, I think at this point, this is what we need. And I think they realize that they need more skin in the game, and that's what we're looking for. Because again, they are going to make money. They are in this for the passion, truly, I'm sure. However, they're in it to make a profit.
Right.
So, with that being said, if it was a purely, mission statement here, we'd be doing it, maybe a little more compassionate. But I look at it from a business perspective, and I think it's worth the gamble. Like I told Chief the other day, I said, if you're right and this thing works, we'd be geniuses. If it doesn't work, we'll be idiots. So
So 15% of the 1.1 million is 165,000.
So it'd be like an extra 50.
If you kept the 12.5, would be 177,500.
What if you move, okay,
So
because
wasn't
here's
the,
my going.
the
Why is
earnest
this
money and
one
the
says
down payment was
275? Where'd that
split?
number come from?
That was what the realtor came up with their kind of.
So the brokers put out a negotiation prior to contacting us, and this is what the group came back with.
So they're willing to put out 275,000 versus.
No.
No, that's
Look
what
at
they,
there's a letter
That's what the group
attached.
wanted.
There's a
Oh.
letter attached to your worksheet there that shows what the original letter said and then what they came back with.
yeah, so that first column is what the company from Alamosa responded with. And then the middle column is what originally the brokers were
Trying to get
asking
us,
for.
yes.
So do you want to go back and say, okay, they said earnest money started at 25, went to 12.5. Do you want to ask for 20? Do you want to take what they gave us in their response and just up it a little bit and see if we can get more? If not.
I think so.
So like your earnest money, they said they'll give 12.5. Do we want to ask for 20?
So either way, earnest money or down payment, we're receiving both of those, right? And
So-
together, they're coming out to the
Right.
10% or the 15 and the 20%.
Right, so if you say, okay, earnest money, we want
You
20
say, well, that's
grand.
gonna be what,
My
160?
goodness,
Right.
you know? Down payment, we want 15% instead of 10.
Mhm.
And then, I don't know if you wanna play with the interest rate, the original was 5.5, they came back at 5, do you wanna say, okay, 5.25? I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt to
It's good.
ask.
It's
Like
good
you said, this is
negotiating.
your negotiation, they may say, we can't do that, but we could do that, or,
It's a
Do
good
we
point.
want to specify anything? I guess my question, I like the idea of coming back with like 5.25 as well. But do we want to specify whether, earnest money or down payment or whatever, as long as we're, we're requesting that together they're 15% of the sale price? Do we care what's the earnest and what's the
Right.
down?
Because it's sold
Right.
like 1 million.
Right.
And to them, earnest is gonna be like, do we get this back?
But
Are
how,
we gonna not get that back?
and I'm sorry, how much would 15% be, just so we can write
That's what I was
these?
starting.
165,000,
Thank you.
Okay,
so that's 15% of,
1.1.
Okay. And so whether that's made up of earnest money or the down payment, right, is kind of
right.
6.
So you say 15%, that's 165,000,
And let them.
and then
kind of
20%
decide how
out of there is your earnest money, which would mean, and then 145K left for your down payment.
You need 20,000,
20,000
What
by
did I say?
20%.
I think
I thought you
20%.
said 20K,
but yeah, okay.
Wouldn't be 20, yeah.
20,000, 20K.
So it would be a 145 deposit with 20K earnest money, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And guys, I think I'd let them win on the 5%. Give them something. If they're giving us something, we can give them something. I don't think 0.25% over 5 years is gonna make a whole lot of difference.
Okay.
Whatever you
Okay.
think, though.
So work on the
15%.
15%.
Yeah, then you put out 100 grand, we put out 97.5.
Yeah, I think I like the sounds of that. The 15%, which he said was 165 total, and then doing 20K earnest, 145 down.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like a good rebuttal, and then I do agree with Joe as well, that it's like, maybe it is better just to give them the win on the 5%, because it might seem pedantic if we come back with a 0.25%. And
Yeah.
yeah, like we're just trying to shake it, you know?
Okay.
So that would mean, unless we have any more debate, then that would mean I would need a motion, I assume, on changing the letter of intent from a 10% down payment to a 15% down payment at the price of $165,000, 20K earnest, 145 down.
So do we have to vote on that,
I don't know.
Les? Is that something we would have, because we're just negotiating?
I think that's right, you don't have
Yeah.
to, because it really is kind of a counteroffer.
And
It's
we'll
not a
see what
final-
happens if it, when the
Okay,
final comes
I
back.
got you.
Okay.
Right.
The other thing I'd like to add to this whole negotiation back and forth, if we end up in legal battles with this nonsense, they pay the legal costs.
Yeah, that's actually,
Because we may end up in legal battles with this before it's all said and done. It's just
no,
precaution.
you're right, you're totally right, that's a
Legal
good.
fees and everything.
Yeah, they pay
for
You
foreclosure.
usually have to say legal fees paid by the prevailing party.
Well,
Yeah. Because if you say legal fee, they will pay
You
all
mean-
legal expenses, we can litigate for anything. and-
I need you to
Right.
clarify when you say legal fees, because
Just, if we end up in court,
Like-
however you say it by your lawyer terms, if we end up in court by any means, they are responsible for paying our attorney fees and the court
I
fees.
assume we're talking for either forbearance or
Right.
if, or whatever the like lien would be
Yeah.
if they got something
Because,
done.
well, I mean, if we end up going down that road, the man's gonna have to.
Right,
and those things will all come into play once we get the letter of intent settled.
Okay.
Then they'll produce the paperwork that we'll go through, and that's when you can put in all of your specifics.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that just says we get down that road.
no, I think you're right, I think you're totally right, because it is, that, again, I think that's a part of, if we're gonna float them this amount of money in the form of a building, then we have to have, as much as I'd like it to be all nice kumbaya world, we have to have some kind of strict
You gotta protect
contingencies,
yourself.
just in case.
Are we gonna need to probably anticipate a special meeting soon? Because if we wanna facilitate this quicker, then we probably don't wanna wait 30 days to meet again, if we're gonna
Right, so,
finalize
well,
this.
We'll draft or email, I don't know, you'll email the realtors, and then they'll get that letter of intent together and send it to the other folks, and then we'll have to hear back from them.
But this could go quickly, I mean, more quicker than
Right.
30 days.
Oh,
Yeah,
heck
oh, yeah.
So we need to anticipate that, we need to do this, and call a special meeting and,
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
all right?
And like Joe, if somebody can't come, everybody can zoom in at one time.
Right.
Sure.
And we can do it totally by Zoom. Thank you, Joe.
I think you gotta remember that we want them here too. I mean, this is a business deal too, but, it's a great, addition to the community if this thing works out. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, as long as the ducks are in a row in case things go worst case scenario, then yeah, I think it ends up being a win-win. Because even if they don't end up paying worst case scenario, if we're set up correctly, then we got the building paid off, or we got the building paid for in that time through the interest payments.
Les, correct me if I'm wrong, but they did their deal in Alamosa with the county. So anything they did, all of their documentation for their sale and everything would be open record, right?
Yes.
We might want to see what
Good
they
idea.
did with them and if they had any special verbiage or
Do we-
anything.
What is their name again? I keep
Hope in the Valley.
Open the Valley, yes.
But that's not their only thing, is my understanding.
No, RRV something is the name of the.
Well, it was
company.
RC or R3.
Oh, yeah,
RRV2
R3.
LLC.
RRV2 is
RRV2.
R in this one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just one side note, I've already had communication today with somebody that wants to partner with them in doing some stuff. So I had to share my contact with them and say, get in touch with them because they want to expand. It's along parallel services. I don't know exactly. They just like, whoa, that's interesting. We want to talk to them because we want to work together. It's like, so it's already multiplying.
Well, and Alamosa would also be able to give you a reference
Mhm.
to, just for the record, to make sure we're doing our due
Yeah, for sure.
diligence.
That's a good idea to do a background check and see what they got
Yeah.
out there.
Okay.
Do some digging.
Okay.
That's right. Investigate.
I know someone that's good at that. Actually, I know two people that are good at that, but yes.
I would make that motion, but I don't remember what. No, we don't need to,
don't
that's
need
right,
the
we don't
motion.
need to,
Not
okay.
until we get our final.
All right.
deliberation.
So do we have any other questions or concerns on the letter of intent?
Who do you want to do? You fill in the bank, you fill in the bank.
So that'll move us on to item number 8, old business.
So under old business, I wanted to put the quick med thing
Mhm.
that Les sent out.
Hope you all received that. And may I?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So, there was a confidential memo, so I won't go into the details of that, but there was the settlement offer in there. And I recommend, as I said, it's Gabe's recommendation also, that you allow Gabe to accept that offer and be done with this. A lot of thoughts, a lot of notions, and a lot of heartburn, but it just seems like it's best to resolve this for that dollar figure.
I feel the same way, and this is totally one of those things where it's like you're dealing with this every day regularly, so I'll defer to you as to whether or not if you want to just be done with it, and this seems like the best we're gonna get from them really, then without like pulling fingernails, then I'm happy to approve.
I think it is, and it's the same one that they came back with prior to, and rather than going back and forth.
Right.
I think this is probably the best offer we'll get,
Right.
just to take it. And Bubba had the suggestion of taking that, and because we haven't given raises this year, given the full-time employees bonuses
Nice.
with that.
Okay. That's awesome.
Hey, good job, Bubba.
Yeah, well done.
Even Red Charles finds a cookie once in a while.
Yeah, I'm for it. I think
So
that sounds
that would
fine.
require a motion.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So do we have the number anywhere?
25,809. Right?
Yep. It's you.
Look at you.
I assume I should not make the motion.
Correct.
That's why you spread your hair up so you can catch stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we-
I thought you'd been doing well today.
This-
I need my hat. So,
Just make a motion to accept the offer?
Yeah,
Do I need
the
to
offer
state-
first.
Do I need to state the numbers?
yes, probably, and to
Right.
authorize Gabe to accept the offer.
So the offer was, tell me again,
25,809.
25,809,
From
and for Gabe to accept the offer, did I word that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'll second the motion.
Nick?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
I'm usually up to you.
Tom?
Yes.
Andres? Zach?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Tweedledee and Tweedledee.
I'm doing that.
Any other old business? Then that'll move us to item number 9, new business, if anybody's got any.
Just, I wanted to bring up that we need to start prepping for the budget. So we need to set a date to do the budget committee or budget.
It's still Zach and Joe, right, on that committee?
I believe,
Yeah,
well, we
unless-
just got, they just
unless-
invited us.
Yeah.
Unless other people wanna
Yeah.
jump on it or something.
But, I mean, I don't have a preference in date. Do you want me to come up with a time, or do you guys have a time that you think you would prefer, or? I don't really have any.
Just as long as before the September meeting, we're okay. So
Okay.
I don't have anything in mind. We would have to meet with,
Actually, that's
so it'd be me, you, Joe, if he's still interested, and then we gotta get with Sue.
Okay,
So I can have Sue throw out some dates and then send them to you
Yeah,
guys if you wanna do that.
that'd be perfect.
Okay.
You okay with that, Joe? He said he'll get some dates from Sue and see which we can figure out which ones work with all of us on getting together for the budget meeting.
Sounds good.
Sweet. Cool. Anybody else with new business? Then we'll move on to item number 10, Director's Report.
Let's see where I'm at. Medical direction's going great. Dr. Becker was here last Wednesday, presented a lecture, and he's all set up to start reviewing patient charts remotely. So that's all going great. Billing company updates. Our new billing company is doing great. Our year-to-date net collections from them are $893,003. And on the old AR, they've collected $9,960. So we're doing pretty good with them. That's awesome. And then we already gave you the quick med update, so we're good there. USDA loan, so we're waiting on the retainage to be paid out, and then we'll complete the DOLA grant, and then we'll be done with that project. So we're just kind of waiting on that. And we keep pushing back the day that we want to do the open house just because the days keep getting away from us. So today Barb suggested maybe doing a safe trick or treat Halloween day open house kind of thing.
That's cool.
And it sounds like people are on board with that, so I think we might shoot for that.
Cool.
And then the sale of the old building's been discussed, so good there. Appeal update, so our oral argument set for September 10th at 1:30. Megan emailed yesterday, they're prepping to have their little mock argument tomorrow. I'm allowed to sit in, and there will be a Zoom link for the oral argument on September 10th, if anybody wants to listen in on that.
Where will the Zoom link be?
When I get it, I can set it out.
So
I don't have it.
Okay, cool.
So this will be actually happening in a courtroom, but they'll have Zoom.
Yeah, so it'll be at the appellate court up in Denver.
Okay.
And she said that I don't have to be there in person because I don't sit up at the table with them like you would normally. So I'd basically just be sitting in the audience listening. So she said you just zoom in and listen and see how it goes.
Cool.
What sort of, how long do you would something like that be?
They give the parties generally 15 minutes. Yeah, it's not long. So, and they are the appellants, so they will go and they will have their time, then we will have our time. And it's really hard to keep track because you're constantly being interrupted by the justices asking you questions. You could be mid-sentence in your first, comment, and they interrupt you and start asking you questions. So keeping track of your time is very difficult, but they literally have at your podium a green light, a yellow light, and then a red light. And when you get your red light, you're done. You sit down. So
really it's the written part that's probably
that's correct. The briefs, exactly. And they may allow more time, but that's generally, and it'll be, since they're the appellant, they will have their time, then we'll have our time, and then they'll get to go one more time since they have the burden of persuasion and the burden of proof.
And what sort of time frame then after that's done on September 10th will the decision be made?
Then it will generally be months. Because they're considering the briefs and the oral argument. So it takes a long time. It takes a long time if it's just, they're deciding on the briefs, but it also takes a long time if they hear the oral argument. It may make things go faster, but generally it's just going to add to the mix and how long.
Doesn't seem like he can do a lot in 15 minutes.
Well,
you're absolutely
what I
right.
was told was right now they've already made up their minds on how they're going to go.
Yeah.
So they said that if the verdict takes months, then something in the oral arguments made them change their minds and reconsider something else.
Uh-huh.
So
Wow.
essentially, it's kind of a done deal already.
But we don't, of course, know.
Right. Yeah, and I'm telling you, it takes some months when you're just doing it on the briefs, and that takes them a very long time. So I don't think that oral arguments are going to shorten the process that they will decide by, and it takes a very long time. But I think that's probably absolutely correct.
Interesting.
But this is the thing, this is the uncharted waters that I had never done, are the oral arguments. So, This is exciting though, and hopefully, it'll go well, and I'm sure it will. Was the moot session, the moot court, tomorrow, or was it next Thursday?
Oh, good question, I don't know. I
Okay.
thought she said later this week, probably Thursday is what the email said.
Might have been.
But I haven't gotten a link or anything, so I don't know. Update on our KISS license. So everything's been submitted to the state. They came back and told us we actually have to have a provider that's certified as a community paramedic, which wasn't a requirement in the past. So Bubba's gonna go take his test on Friday.
Cool.
And then once he's
Nice.
done with that, we'll send that to the state and then we'll kind of see where we're at with the license.
You said that's for the kids.
Yep.
Okay.
What is it he's taking a test on?
Yeah, what is it?
Provider?
He's a community paramedic. So he has to be a certified community paramedic
Oh,
for us to get our KISS license. And then once we have the KISS license, then we can go after the health service district.
Have you been studying?
It's way different, so
Wow.
Do you need a tutor?
I'm gonna give it my best shot.
Right on,
I
right
have
on.
faith in you, Bob.
Yeah, buddy.
Ask my paramedic.
You could do it, Boma.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Yeah.
Just a couple small little updates. July 28th, we had our annual Blue Game versus the Triggers. I didn't make it, but Bubba was there. Sounds like that went well. Everybody enjoyed that. August 12th, we had staff go up to the high school and present Narcan training and an AED refresher for their back to school little deal. August 13th, I participated in the Colorado Whole Blood Coalition. August 15th, we did our trauma training barbecue at Trinidad Lake. Flight for Life was supposed to come in and they canceled on us again.
See them too, though.
That was the third time.
Yeah.
No, they actually had a call that night. And August 27th, we started utilizing wristbands as part of a pilot for Pulsera patient tracking. So the state's looking at buying or has bought Pulsera, and so the state purchased a bunch of wristbands and reached out to people that wanted to pilot it. So we're on the pilot.
So is that just like once you, like putting a wristband on them on the ambulance?
Yep, so every patient that we encounter, we'll put a wristband on them and we'll scan it, and then we'll put all their information. And so the wristband is supposed to stay on them until they're discharged, so that if they get transferred to another facility, you can get on, you can scan it, all their information should pop
Yeah,
up,
that's cool.
and that should follow them anywhere in the state.
That's awesome.
So
That's way cool.
trying to figure out how that's gonna work.
Yeah.
And then this weekend is the Caveman Festival and the rodeo.
Okay, good luck.
So we'll have ambulances all over the place
Yeah.
this weekend. And that's all I have for my director's report.
I saw in the bills that some of the body cam stuff had gotten set up, or at least payments had gone out for setting up like server side.
Yeah, so I've got Hayden still working on the servers.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on director's report? And that would move us on to item number 11, operations and fleet report.
All right, so 217 calls for service for July. That was down 24 from the previous month. Our third medic unit ran 2 calls with 1 transport. Both Gabe and I ran 1 call. If I remember correctly, it was the same call. We had 26 IFTs, which is down 2 from the previous month. We had no return trips home. We did take all our transfers that we were asked of for July. 200 IFTs for the year, which I look back in 2023, which was crazy because we were at 26 IFTs this month. For July, last July we had 43 IFTs.
Wow.
But in the grand scheme of things, we are only down 17 IFTs from last year. So We were at 217 at the end of July last year.
Wow.
We're at 200 now. Mileage, 5,448 miles. And year to date, we're at 44,248.
Good thing it's closed.
Happy to report that we have 5 of these 6 trucks in service. At the time of this, we had 4 that I wrote this, so we're up to 5. And the only thing, Big Red's getting a new air conditioning condenser, so that we're working on that. So, and just to follow up to like Chief was saying, just a lot of conversations back and forth. Been talking quite a bit with Ty Winter on property tax stuff. I'm just trying to, I mean, he's struggling up there. He's just trying to do the best for everybody, and I really think he's doing a great job. He's in a tight place, so spent a lot of time with him over the last few days to try to make sure he understands where we're coming from.
Good.
So, and that's your fleet and operations report.
Best report ever.
Well done. That'll move us on to item number 12, miscellaneous. Got any miscellaneous? I had one, and it was to do with one of the bills. It's the only one I didn't sign yet, because I was wondering, it kind of looked like it should have been not under the enterprise one. Let me see real quick. There was one other one that I signed, but then this one was like the remainder. There was one that it took like 2 pieces out of the bill. Let's see this one. So it was under the enterprise, and it's like table grid. It says furniture and equipment from Uline, and it was like tables, the training tables, eyewashing
So I
stations.
put it under the enterprise because that's where the funds for the building are.
Okay.
And so that
Gotcha.
was for training room tables and chairs
Okay,
and
cool.
stuff.
I'll approve that.
Thanks for checking.
Yeah, no worries. I figured I'd check today. Cool, then that's all I had for miscellaneous.
That's where all our money's at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we don't have anything else on miscellaneous, that'll move us to next regular meeting date, which I have as
25th?
25th.
With a possible special meeting.
Got you.
Probable.
Yeah. Did I say possible?
Hopefully.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that would be September 25th, 4 p.m.
Yeah, I'm in Breckenridge, it's cold here.
Nice.
You have your swimming trunks on. You've been in the hot tub, haven't you?
The high was 64.
Hey,
Nice.
we're having a good time. All right, then I'll just need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Nice. That was fast.
We're gonna need to separate you two.
Nick,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Nick.
Man, you trained. That's
You
not it.
thought- you thought so.
Yeah.
Andres,
Yes. Well, now you said it.
Joe,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
I got them mixed up.
Good.
See y'all.
Bye.